Now let's look into the detail of competitive market. Okay, so first, this is a general introduction of the golden rule. The golden rule is that in order for profit maximizing firm, in order to maximize their profit, what they should do is to make the decision on their production plan, which is how many units of product to output, Q star, so that marginal revenue just equals to marginal cost. Why is that? Profit is the difference between revenue and cost. And here, as you can see, the difference between revenue and cost, that is actually the distance between these two curves, for which the red curve stands for the cost curve, the blue curve stands for, the light blue curve stands for revenue. And here, when the difference between them is the greatest, that's when marginal revenue equals to marginal cost. And here you can see for the profit, which is the purple curve, it reaches peak when the firm produces at Q star. And here we have a numeric example. Okay, the profit is maximized when marginal revenue equal to marginal cost. Anywhere deviating from that, the profit is not maximized. Okay, so for at least for for-profit firms, what they should do is to ensure marginal revenue equals to marginal cost by changing the plan of production, Q namely. Okay, so here, as you can see, as we are looking into this, we haven't mentioned about the market structure. We haven't mentioned about the firm, whether it is in a competitive market or as a monopoly standing alone in the market. So here, this conclusion, where marginal revenue equals to marginal cost, maximizes the profit, is a golden rule that is regardless of market structure. Okay, so let's make that clear. Then let's look into competitive market. Here, think about the pencil that you use for filling the scantrons. Do you ever notice the producer? Does it make a difference to you which company the producer is? Will you notice and be sad about the pencil producer quitting the market? The answer to this in general would be no. And that tells you what a firm that produces generic products, namely what a firm that functions in a perfectly competitive market, will be like. There are multiple firms so that you can't remember any specific one. And firms are price takers. I'll get to this later. But the key thing is they're producing homogeneous goods. The pencils that you're using, possibly you don't even care the brand, because you know those are generic, namely homogeneous, right? Homo means only one, same. Genius comes from genre, meaning type, the same type of product. Okay? And because those firms are producing homogeneous goods, there is nothing crazy. Let's get to this. Because those firms are producing homogeneous goods, that's pretty simple, right? And there is no fancy skills in the production. So it's easy for other firms to copy, right? Other potential competitors to enter into the market. So there is free entry. And because you're producing a very generic products, as you're leaving the market, it's easy for you to sell, say, your production, right? So exit is easy, free entry and free exit, right? And that's why there are a large number of firms, right? And then because each firm is producing the same thing, pretty much, right? Then those firms are just price takers, right? What does price taker mean? Price taker means if you price a little bit higher than your competitor, competitor will possibly consumer will possibly tend to your competitor, not you. So nobody, as each individual firm in a perfectly competitive market, dares to charge higher, right? There is a market price, and what you do is to conform to it. And lastly, perfect information. It's just a pencil. It's not a nuclear weapon, right? With one glance, you see through what this is, and possibly with another glance, you know how this is produced, and you can copy this, right? So these 5 features are the key characteristics of perfect competition. Now, looking at individual firms, okay? Those individual firms are facing a horizontal demand, and here you see D is noted as the lowercase. All right, lowercase d. What does that mean? That means here, this will be clearer. Lowercase d. What does this mean? That means this is the demand that each individual firm in the perfect competitive market is facing. Okay. Now, question: why is it horizontal? 2 reasons. One is as one small individual firm that faces numerous competitors who are producing similar products or identical products to yours, right? Then the consumer that you're facing are very elastic. Elasticity actually comes from alternative, the availability of alternatives. And here there are numerous alternatives, then consumers are very elastic. Namely, if you charge $1 higher than your competitors, and the consumer is gonna check over your shoulder and see other competitors are producing the same thing, charging lower than you, why do they buy from you? Right? So that's why we have a horizontal line, and that's one thing. And that also explains why each individual firm is a price taker, which is the key thing in the competitive market. However, for the industry, for this entire market, the total market demand may be of certain level of inelasticity. And inelasticity reflected on the graph, that is a steepness. It is not horizontal anymore. Why is that? Think about this. So, pencils. We know there are many pencil producers. The wood one, the automatic one, whatever it is. Right? There are many. And you consider those are of similar function, generic, homogeneous. Okay, so for each firm, you don't have a specific brand loyalty. So for each firm, the consumers that they are facing is perfectly elastic, meaning horizontal demand, lowercase d. But for the entire industry, what does that mean? The industry of pencil, right? Then do you need a pencil? I would say now and then, yes, right? Then in that case, for the entire big market, which is the industry of pencil, then we do have a demand. The thing is, here for the market, it's millions, it's a scale of million. For the entire industry, it's a scale of million. But for each firm, because they are small sized, right? Because there are many and each firm is small sized, not big enough to have their own brand effect, right? Then no matter how they produce, how much they produce is by 100 scale. In front of a million scale industry, no matter producing 100 units or double the production into 200, it's not going to affect the price of the industry at all. That also tells you why this firm, each individual firm in the perfect competitive market is considered as price taker. Okay, price taker, it means marginal revenue equals to price. Marginal revenue is the revenue from producing and selling each additional unit of product. For each pencil that you sell, since it doesn't change the market price at all, and since you're a price taker, it is just, say, $1 per pencil. For the next pencil you sell, it's still $1, right? So marginal revenue in this perfect competitive market, for the special case, that equals to your the market price. And here, then we can write the complete equation. Okay, for profit maximization decision for each individual firm under a competitive market. Okay, first, those firms maximize profit maximizing, so marginal cost equal to marginal revenue, and because it's a perfect competitive market industry, marginal revenue equals to price. So here we can chain them up. We have this long equation. Okay. And just to give you a further idea about this, here we are looking into a long-run equilibrium case. Okay, so here we have supply. Say originally, the market supply that is composed of numerous firms like you, like each individual one, right? There is a supply and there is a demand. And we say for this industry, for the industry of pencil in general, there is a demand and supply and demand intersects, and there is a price. And here, this is a price that each individual firm should have, must conform to under the price taker assumption, right? Now, say there is a certain change. Here, the supply is moving outwards. Say, oh, for the entire industry, there is a technological improvement, right? So the cost of producing decreases, and therefore the supply curve goes down. Supply curve shift outwards. What's the consequence for the entire market? The price goes down. And then each individual firm is facing a lower market price. So this is how to connect individual firms' behavior to the change in the industry. And in terms of how the market equilibrium changes, we are going to utilize the previous chapter's understanding about how supply intersects with demand. But for how each individual firm should behave, whether this firm is making a positive gain, whether this firm is suffering a loss, that is dependent on how the price is compared to that is dependent on how the price is compared to the cost, right? Compared to the minimum point of your average cost. And how to analyze that? I refer you to the 4-step graphing method.